Since you say something. All right, guys, you all have to unfortunately click the button that you're okay with recording. So I'm okay with recording.
All right, introduce. It is recording.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you so much. You are the best. I'm Dr. Nina Browner. I'm a program director for UNC Neurology. It's, you know how you go on an airplane and people say, this airplane is going to this direction. So if you're not planning to go to Memphis, please come off. So this Zoom meeting goes we'll talk about UNC Neurology residency. It's our open house. As you can see, we're completely disinhibited neurologists who are going to be joking around and showing you around our virtual house. And who's going to be doing it with me is my co-pilot, which I love to pieces, is Dr. Lau.
Hi, I'm Winnie Lau. I'm the Associate Program Director here, and very much a pleasure to meet all of you guys virtually today. We do apologize in advance for our giggles. We do that often. Please feel free to put stuff in the questions. Background stuff, I'm a neurointensivist. Dr. Browner's a movement disorders doc. So we just love completely different things. She's the pontificator. And then
yes, I love to talk and pontificate. Yes, and you're a doer.
I'm the
and
doer.
That's why we're a good team.
That's kind of our MO.
All right, very good. We have more people coming. So guys, so what we're going to do is that I'm going to put a little bit of a slides just to give you a really quick overview. And then after that, in 15 minutes, I promise to not show any more slides, and it's going to be all yours, asking questions. And thank you so much to everybody who is like sending us questions in the Google form. We went through all of it. We're very good students. Oh, you need to let me share my screen apparently. Perfect. All right, that's what I wanted to share. This is Chapel Hill. All right, I don't know how many of you have been to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's a really, really lovely place. It's a small place. It's basically the home for the first and oldest public university of United States. And this is UNC Chapel Hill. And basically how it was created is that a lot of people in North Carolina State decided that they would love to create a university, and then they actually take a hat and they put money into a hat, and then that's how university was built. And this is over here on the bottom is an old well, which is basically the place where it's a water fountain. And the idea is that when you take your exams, you would go and drink from the water fountain. I don't know how they do it for COVID, but you will have the best ever exam results. And so we are basically very much connected to university. We love it to pieces. And basketball is something that we continuously talk to our patients. I think the first thing that you need to learn is about like who is the coach of the UNC basketball. And I think it will be working really well for you instead of asking who is other people on the mental status exam. You just ask who is a basketball coach, and people most probably answer, and then you know that they're good to go and they know what's going on. All righty. And connected to the campus, to this undergraduate campus, which as you can see on this huge big picture on top, on the back there, this is undergraduate campus, is actually the medical campus and the hospital, which is lovely because if we want to do any projects or research with anybody on undergraduate campus, such as psychology, for example, it's right there. We can walk to each other. UNC medical campus has basically tons of different schools of nursing, school of dentistry, School of Medicine itself, School of Public Health, all of it in one little tiny area. If you look at this picture, that's basically is our hospitals. So this is the oldest hospital built in 1952. And guess what? Like the UNC University itself, they also built it by getting money from the whole people of the state. And the idea was that we will be taking care of people of the state. And then they really quickly realized that this little hospital is just not enough for all the people of North Carolina. So they started adding more hospitals. And this is the Children's Hospital, Women's Hospital. This over here and has a little bit of a slope of a helicopter on top. It's actually the hospital for the neurosciences. And this is where neurology is at, psychiatry, ENT. So this is kind of like our hospital. And this is the cancer hospital, which you see on this picture over here. And I'm going to show you this big dig. So we are expanding as we speak, and which was really exciting that despite COVID, they never stopped building, and they basically are adding new surgical tower. This is how it's going to look. This red building and this is this red building that you would be able to see before because it was a big dig. That was the picture I showed to everybody last year. This is the two pictures I just took literally like 2 days ago. And you can see that the tower is going up and is going to be amazing. And you would say to me, like, how is the surgical tower connected to neurology? It's very much connected because a lot of the services will move into the surgical tower and we will have much more space. So for example, our neurology ICU is actually going to expand, right? And other ICUs are going to expand and we're going to have much more spaces within the hospital because most of the ORs is going to move there. They're also going to have an MRI scanner, new one, CAT scanner, in addition to 12 already available. So that would be really, really good. So that's how we look. And this is why I came to North Carolina at UNC. So when I was interviewing, my position is it was the first time I interviewed out of fellowship, literally. I was very green coming out of sort of fellowship. And I was interviewing two people and everybody told me about this slogan of the UNC Hospitals. And I really loved it. And at that time, there was a way to see it. Actually, it was printed on the wall. Right now, this is the wall where all construction's happening. So they moved it a little bit, but it basically says operated by and for people of North Carolina. And I loved it. I love that I can come and take care of people of the whole state. And for the 13 years that I'm here, we've been doing it day in, day out. We actually see people from the whole state. And we're very proud of that. So from the mountains to the beach, people come to UNC, helicoptered to UNC, and coming to be a resident here, you really see the population of the whole state and take care of them. And because of this, you will see missions of different departments at UNC, and all of them will talk about the patients. The patient-centered care would be kind of like a cornerstone of what they talking about. And I don't think that the neurology department is any different. As you can see here is also, it's basically to provide the highest quality of care to patients. And then from there comes everything else, the research, the dedication to education, the dedication to medical students, innovation in different care models, and so on and so forth. So that's what our inspiration is. Every time that we not sure where we're going, we'll look at the slogan of UNC and it really helps us to move on forward. All right, this is the residency. I gave you a little bit of the numbers so that you can just kind of like think about it. It's quite a diverse group of people. So it's a 54% of women right now and 54% of underrepresented minorities. 11% are actually FMGs, 38% are married, and 20% have kids. And this 20% from starting from November 1 will have to be recalculated because we are expecting 3 babies in our residency, fingers crossed, and we are very excited for it. So if you want to know how to have a child in residency, do ask us. We are very good at this and we know exactly how to do it. So that's that. It's a 28 residents, so about 7 a year, and we're going to be getting 7 next year. So we have 7 positions available. We also have a 7-child neurology residents. They are currently 4 of them in their pediatrics years and 3 of them in neurology. But your class, most probably when you match, by that time, we will have 2 child neurology residents continuously every single class. So they trained with us for the first year. It's actually ended up being kind of like this one big class of adult and child neurology residents, and we love them to pieces, and we're all together in the same floor, so that's really good. We also have a bunch of fellowships, and all of them have fellows. You see here that there are fellowships which are ACGME accredited. Our neurocritical care will be ACGME accredited very, very quickly, I think very, very soon, which is very excited. Accreditation really comes from what the whole society decided to do. So if you see that some of the fellowships are not accredited by ACGME, it doesn't mean that there's not a good fellowship. It just means that professional society decided not yet accredit their fellowship with the ACGME. So that's basically they. Just to think about the neurology trainees currently, I've told you that kind of like a little bit of a percentages are there, but about 93% go to fellowship training of our residents. Some of them stay with us in our fellowships because we have absolutely great training in our fellowships and amazing faculty. And some of them leave to go to other places. We really don't care what would you do, stay or go, as long as it's basically coming to the best place that you want to be. 93% of fellowship training is about what happens in a nation. So about 93% of residents actually go to fellowship training. And then out of our graduates, about 31% choose academic career. And I would say that 60% are in a term that I've learned last year, which is called prividemia. It's not the academia, but it's prividemia. I'm giving you this term. And prividemia is kind of like this combination of, usually it's a hospital or a big HMO organization that not necessarily have academic department, but they're connected to academic department. And they have, so for example, medical students or residents who would rotate, but not all of them. And so we have a lot of our graduates who enjoy combination of being a clinician educator and practitioners, clinical practitioners, and choose prividemia. I don't know what would be the official term for this type of institutions, and about 30% of them go into academic careers. And this is something that we're very proud of. And Dr. Lau is spearheading our curriculum. 100% of residents who graduate from our program is currently passing their boards. And this is the number for the past 7 years. We are completely crossing our fingers, our toes, our everything for September 24th, which is basically our new batch of residents are taking neurology boards this year. And I know that inside of their heads, they hear me talking about the boards and talking about little bits and pieces that we teach them all the time, what to do. And we wish them good luck. But I do think that we will continue with this streak of 100% neurology board passing rate. Okay, so this is us. In addition to this, Dr. Lau, do you want to take over and talk about resident as teachers? Because we have a lot of opportunities to be a teacher as a resident.
Sure, of course. We are so happy that our residents really take a lot of passion in teaching medical students and kind of expanding their knowledge and teaching each other. And so there's lots of opportunities for residents to be teachers within the residency program and outside of the residency program. This top picture over here, the how to communicate diagnosis, this is one of our senior residents, Mariko, who has, she's just such a compassionate soul, and she really has bonded with functional patients, so patients with psychosomatic disorders or psychogenic disorders. And so she kind of built her own little curriculum and taught the residents about what's the approach to these patients, how do you communicate with them, how do you support them psychologically as you deliver their diagnosis. There's lots of opportunities to work with medical students. I actually, just before we came today, was with one of our PGY3 residents, Jeremy, doing small group localization with the medical students, literally 15 minutes before I arrived here with you guys. Everybody gets a chance to do grand rounds by the end of their residency program. And there's an amazing, is it the next slide, Dr. Browner, the Tar Heel program?
Yep.
There's an amazing program here called the Tar Heel program. It's with the Academy of Educators, which is a clinical education program for faculty here at UNC, but they actually have generated this sub-program called the Tar Heel program. It's a 6-month-long program where they teach you the fundamentals of clinical education, learning theory, help you practice building lectures and giving you feedback. It's amazing. Our chief resident, Fazila, did this last year, and then Jeremy, who I just told you about, is actually doing it this year. And so we're so very proud of them. I've seen huge growth just in the few sessions that they've already done.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good opportunity to build your career as a clinician educator. We talk about the careers. We pay a lot of attention to professional development of the residents, because I think it's extremely important to become a really great clinician. And I think that the program gives you plenty of opportunity to see a lot of different patients, both as a tertiary center and both as the only hospital. Can you imagine the UNC Hospitals is the only hospital for our Chapel Hill and Durham residents? You know, Durham residents have a little bit more choices. They have a Duke University, have a Durham Regional, but our Chapel Hill, Orange County people have only this hospital as their primary local general hospital. And at the same time, it's also a tertiary hospital for the whole North Carolina. So it's very interesting how it works. And so in addition to being really exposed to many different patients, I would say bread and butter, zebras, and I call them giraffes, which is basically the giraffe is like nobody knows what's going on, but we are trying to figure it out. I think in addition to it, it's very cool to carve out your way and what you want to be in a part of the neurology community. And so I think it's extremely important to find yourself or try yourself, let's put it this way, while you're a resident, because I think it's a very protected time to just try things and see if you like it or you don't like it. And I really like that we have this opportunity for people who think that they want to be clinician educators to try and tip your toes, or maybe jump in completely if you want to be the Tar Heel resident, for example. And that works really, really great for us. The people who support you is actually neurology faculty and staff. Our department has been growing, and despite COVID, we've actually acquired or brought in a lot of different faculty, both assistant professors, associate professors, full professors. There is a new division just was developed, which is going to be focusing on neurogenetics purely. We have this amazing MS center that's just kind of like going to grow even more, because now there's a neuro-ophthalmologist and neuroinfectious diseases person in the movement disorders, which is my division. We actually have also new faculty who will be interested in doing genetics and all this like different hyperkinetic movement disorders. In a neurocritical care and in vascular neurology, there's a tremendous growth, and they're looking for people to come in and to really do research and do clinical care. And so don't hold me to my 50 number. Right this moment, we have 50 faculty members. And 45 of them are clinical, 6 of them are full-time research faculty. We really don't have so-called submarine attendings, which is the attending who mostly does research and then come out to do rounds with you for maybe 2 weeks. And you as a senior have a really interesting job keeping them straight. We don't have the physicians like that. So we have mostly clinical faculty who are with you at all times. They are very much know how the hospital works, what does it mean to see clinical patients, and it's a lot of fun to be with them. But in addition, we also have a 6 full-time research faculty. So you're really interested in research, they're available to us, and there's a particular labs that basically some of our residents connect to and work. We also have lots of physician extenders, which I think is extremely important to figure out how to work with a physician extender while you're a resident rather than new on a job. I think that physician extenders are something that have been happening to neurology a lot, and this movement will grow. So it's really great that we have a lot of them in different divisions, and so you can find the way how to talk to them and what they can do and how they can enhance the practice. We also have clinical and study coordinators and administrative assistant. Our administrative assistant for the residency is an absolutely amazing person, Sharon Words. She's taking care of her husband today, but you definitely will meet her. She is I think that she keeps us both straight. And she makes sure that this ship is running. And all the other people who help you in the clinic and everywhere else, it's just like very, very lovely people. Very impressive. If you ask me about research, this is what I usually tell people, and this is where I looked when I was an applicant. When I was an applicant, I kind of like wanted to see how many designated center of excellence a place would have. Why? Because, you know, when this was an NIH grant, the grant is only for 5 years. And so if you come in a residency on the fourth year of a grant, even though you would really love to do whatever this center is doing, you may not be able to do it because the grant has finished. Whereas a center of excellence dedication is really very different. It's usually maybe connected to the grant money, but mainly what it is a stamp of approval that this particular place is doing something really incredibly great with research, clinical care, outreach, so all of the important parts. And I'm going to show you our designated center. So of course, the stroke center has all the bells and whistles. We have a level 4 epilepsy center, which is the center that's doing surgery as well. We have absolutely amazing amount of the neuromuscular centers, and we are right now going to be competing for the ILS center designation as well. So I'm giving you like this hot of the press news because we've gotten a humongous grant and we're actually going to be building our ILS program. But even so, our neuromuscular colleagues have so many accolades already. We have a MS center, Partners in MS Care, and absolutely amazing transverse myelitis center, which is basically only second on the East Coast. The first one is at Hopkins. We also have a Children's Tumor Foundation, mainly NF center, and where we're following people who are actually not children anymore, they're adults with NF, NF1 and F2. And we've just gotten designation for ADRC, which is a very big deal. And this is a UNC Duke enterprise, which is so cool. I'm so excited. I was jumping up and down because I think that our two institutions always been doing quite well together. We are literally 15 minutes away from each other, and they have amazing researchers and clinicians, as we too as well. And I think that this is just a testament to these amazing collaborations that we've been forging and now definitely will be moving forward with. We also have Parkinson's Foundation Center of Excellence, here PSP, which is basically, it's a center for atypical Parkinsonism and Lewy body dementia research center of excellence. So if I haven't convinced you yet that we have a lot of centers of excellence, then just look at this slide. The most important thing as a resident is this. Every single center has a database. Every single center has a lot of little tiny projects. And guess what? They have no time to do all of them. They need somebody who will look through the patient charts, look through this and that, make sure that everything is published. And that's where the residents come in. So most of the scholarly activity I feel that the residents are doing are very clinically related. And most of them are within the centers of excellence because it's just kind of like very easy vehicle to really connect to the subspecialty. Some of my residents use this as the ability to understand what type of subspecialty they want to choose eventually. Right. And then eventually they will have publications or presentations. I love this picture. I'm putting it now. This is our last picture of us traveling to any academic conference. That was the North Carolina Neurological Society 2020. I think it was, this picture was like, I want to say February 14th. And as you know, by March 2020, we were just completely shut down from everything. So we enjoyed it tremendously, but here's our publications. This is all the residence publications for the past few years. So yeah, scholarly activities definitely is happening. This is it. This is the silly crew. I don't know. I don't think that I have any more slides. I don't think we need any more slides. Honestly, I'm going to stop share at this moment. and let you all guys, I'm sorry if I'm too fast, that's why we're recording everything, but I think that I'd let you guys to just go on with the questions or comments or anything that you want to know.
So what I'll have you guys do is feel free to definitely type your questions in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, just throw up the little hand raise emoji so that I know and I don't cut you off. There are a lot of questions from our Google form and we'll start answering those. But as soon as you have a question, just shoot up your emoji hand and we'll call on you and put things in the chat and I will gladly dictate them out to the group. So I think we covered the research opportunities pretty well. Lots of opportunities and many people have actually been doing research projects throughout typically their PGY 3-year because everybody is still finding their way their PGY 2-year, but lots of people have been generating opportunities for themselves or having faculty jump in there and get them research opportunities. Actually, I believe one of our peds neuro residents got the research award, one of our graduating peds neuro residents. So just to kind of give you an idea. There is, hey, Julie, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
We can.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Browner, Dr. Lau. This is Dr. Gilani from Pakistan. Just, first of all, thank you for this very informative open house. And just wanted to ask a query. Just can you walk us through a bit about the type of patients that residents can expect to see in the program? You did mention obviously there were zeras, there were the bread and butter cases,
Giraffes.
and even the giraffes and the giraffes. Yep, and the giraffes. But generally speaking, in terms of patient diversity, like are there any underrepresented cases in medicine, any patients from the lower SES, and do residents do they go for any outreach clinics? If you can just shed a little bit of light on that with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question, actually. I'm going to start and maybe Dr. Lau can just tag along with me. So the story with us is that in the UNC Chapel Hill Hospitals always had been taking care of people who are completely don't have any insurance. And there's something that we have, it's called charity care. It's been before Obamacare, before anything else. And so our job is to take care of anybody in the state. And because of that, we see a lot of people who either don't have insurance or they actually maybe even not citizens of the United States, and they sometimes are in a very difficult social situations. And so you are, as a resident, you actually expose and see them, all of them. Because of that, we actually don't have something that's called a free clinic, for example, or I know some institutions have a Medicare or Medicaid clinic, actually Medicaid clinic. We don't have this either. So all the patients are not separated at all, and you see them all at once and all together. We don't have really different charts for them or different ways to access care. And it's been like this at UNC for many, many years. So that's kind of very, very lovely. The other thing that we do is that inside the clinics, we have a financial counselors because of that. And basically when as a resident in the clinic, you will be able to see patients without really thinking about money for a second. You just kind of like focus on your clinical acumen and you figure out what this patient needs. And then after that, the financial counselor is there to figure out how this person is going to afford whichever it is, the MRI, the medications that you're going to be prescribing, and so on and so forth. We also have, separately from charity care, we also have something that's called pharmacy care, where medication are distributed either for free or for a very, very small price. So that's kind of like all to give it opportunity to everybody to access to care and take care of them. Overall in the hospital, you will see actually you have 2 inpatient services, stroke and general neurology. They actually do what you hear they do. Stroke does stroke, general neurology does all the rest of the admissions. You have a neuro ICU, neurological ICU, which is a dedicated ICU for neurological patients and neurosurgical patients that is staffed only by a neurologist with neurocritical care fellowship. So that's kind of like top notch, exactly how it needs to be done. And in addition to this, we have a consult service. I'm a consult attending at all times. I love looking at the patients, and these are the patients who belong to other services. for example, cancer services, ID, medicine, surgery, and we come in and ask, they ask us neurological questions and we answer. And the exposure of the neurology residents is tremendous because you will see everything. And if you don't see everything yourself, we have something that's called morning report, which is basically happens 4 times a week, where every team that I just talked about presents a patient that they saw. And so even if they haven't seen that patient yourself, you could listen to the presentation, and the seniors basically, it's very interesting, they disclose a little bit to get the PGY2s and the PGY3s to just kind of like think about differential diagnosis, and eventually little by little they give you more and more information. So these are not cases that you would never know the answer. This is more of a teaching cases where you do know the answer, but you are looking for people to do a decision making as you do, like looking through the case, sort of in a real lifetime basically, and then eventually have the answer. So that's what's happening. I hope I answered your question. Dr. Lau, what did I forgot?
Yes, I'll say the patient perspective is really broad. Because we do serve the underserved population, we get a lot of advanced pathology. So pathology that, you know, took it really a step further that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see. For example, last month, there was an invasive mucormycosis into the sinus and with a stroke and everything. Just this week in morning report, to give you an idea, and morning report is based on patients you're seeing this week. There was a spinal cord injury patient. So it was a compressive tumor, I believe. There was a seizure syncope, which is always a great kind of routine thing to cover, a Guillain-Barré patient, and an NMDA encephalitis patient. So all in 1 week. That was just this week.
I would say, and NMDA is a zebra for me in my world, like I feel, but but like Guillain-Barré was probably like bread and butter,
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We haven't had a giraffe no, the giraffe didn't happen to us this week, but it will. I'm sure it will at some point.
Not this week.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Brown and Dr. Lau, for that detailed answer. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Sure. And then I will piggyback onto that because there were some questions kind of related to global health opportunities as well in our Google form. So while we're talking about underserved populations, we can talk about our global health opportunities. We do have one. It has been a little bit stifled by COVID, so we haven't been allowed to send residents on it, but we have a rotation out in Peru, doing acute care neurology in Peru that's sort of partnered with a couple of neurocritical care providers over there, which is going to be a really excellent opportunity. It was just about to be up and running, had our kind of first resident ready to go, and then COVID came in the way. And so that's been unfortunate, but that's 100% planned. As soon as we get travel restrictions lifted, that will be reinstituting that. Additionally, we have opportunities within our neurosurgical department as well. They often go to Malawi and Mauritania, and that's going to be available to the neurology residents if you want to go with them in order to teach stroke care. That can be arranged as well. We have a question about
something.
Yeah.
I want to mention something. You know, it's very interesting how people usually say, what's a global neurology? And I sometimes think to myself, you know, global neurology going to another country, I think is like really gives you opportunity to understand how things are. But the global neurology can happen in your backyard as well. For us especially, so the Chapel Hill Durham area is a little bit connected to the farmland, and so we actually end up seeing a lot of farm workers as well, because they are the one who is uninsured, and they will come to UNC. And we've seen a lot of neuroinfectious diseases that you would usually not necessarily maybe see, kind of like in places that are a little bit more rural. But in this case, it's not completely rural area, but we end up having to see some of the cases that were very interesting, not so great for the patients, obviously. And so sometimes when people talk about global neurology, I always think about it's in our backyard. We just have to like see it. And taking care of these patients, it was really great because we had charity care and we have pharmacy assistants, and we were able to take care of them to the full capacity. And that felt really rewarding. So yeah, global neurology also happens in the backyard.
Dr. Browner, do you want to talk about dedicated time for research in the program and how
Yeah, I saw this question.
work?
Yeah, that's very, very good question. So you do have a lot of elective time, especially in your third year and at the end of your fourth year. So altogether, there's about 6 months of elective time that will be happening in your schedule. The PGY2 time, you have about 10 weeks of elective time, and we take 5 of them and we create a selective time for you, which is basically will tell you what to do during that time. And this is the time for you to spend time in the clinic in a particular subspecialties. And the way we chose those is that something that you see a lot in the hospital. So you spend time in epilepsy, headache clinics, behavioral and neurology. And these are the major who you go and see patients with, and multiple sclerosis, because you see a lot of people in the emergency room and admitted to the hospital with this diagnosis. And then it's really good to see the clinic to understand how this loop closes, basically. And then you have the elective time, 5 weeks, and usually the PGY2s use the elective time to do reading elective, because this is a dedicated time for them to read literature and just kind of like to think about what they saw and who they saw, and maybe do some meetings with their mentors. The PGY3s have much more elective time, and they usually have a chunk of at least 2 months, during which time they can do the research. I have to say that a lot of them thinking about it and writing their case presentations and presenting at the conferences, not only during this elective time, but like overall. But there's definitely time as a PGY3 to have that. And the last time is basically when you're PGY4, somewhere after, I would say, February. So those last months of PGY4 year usually is when you're not in clinical services. And this is the time where most of the PGY4s finishing up with their scholarly activity, finish up their research, preparing the publications, preparing their posters, talking to their mentors a lot, and deciding to what data they taken with you when they live to go to fellowship or to work, and so on and so forth. So I don't think that we can say that we have this elective time. Definitely that's not what we have. I think it's the problem with the research I feel is that it's very short usually. And as you know, any research requires some time. You need to do the IRB, you need to either see your charts or recruit the patients. And so it's much better to have a good chunks of time throughout the years of training where you can actually dedicate your time to your scholarly project. So that's the idea of the research time for the UNC.
Great. I'm going to go into a little bundle of questions about our program evaluation and how we kind of take feedback and meet for change, and what kind of changes the program is going to anticipate over the next couple of years. And so in terms of feedback, this is actually Dr. Browner and I, we have a policy. It's not our program. It is not our program. And so actually everything that happens in this residency program happens with the feedback of the residents. There are very minor things that ACGME from on high says we must do. And of course we do those things. But in terms of how these rotations are going, how do they need to be flexed? How do we change the clinic? Residents have their hands in all of that. And that's exactly what we want. We want you guys to get the training that's appropriate and that you tell us that you need. We will also have input just through experience of other things we think you might need, but it's all about what do you need? You're on the ground, you can see it the best, you tell us. And so absolutely. We're constantly renovating things year to year. This year, we started an X+Y schedule where the PGY2 residents have pure inpatient, pure outpatient. You know, verdict's not quite out yet, how much they like it. They seem to like it. And so I think that's probably something that will stay, but verdict is not entirely out on that. This year, we completely revamped our didactics program into a block curriculum. That was something that was also recommended by the residents. We added simulations. That was also requested by the residents after trying it, which they really loved. And so we absolutely welcome regular feedback all the time. And, you know, you can't change a program and make it better without feedback, right? And then in regards to program changes in the next 5 to 10 years, lots of them. Dynamically, mostly resident driven. The main things I think for you all to know is that this program is growing big time. So Dr. Browner said we have 50 faculty. That actually continues to grow. About every 3 months, 2 faculty have been added for the last 2 years due to our wonderful chairwoman, Dr. Garden. And so there's a real mission here to get you guys exposed to lots of subspecialties, lots of types of practice. And I think that's going to be a great education experience for you to see this huge department and all the wonderful things that they're going to be doing.
Yep, I only have to add that just example for you, morning report, we started it, we said every day another one team is taking care of the patients. We thought about everything. The chiefs looked at it, I looked at it, Dr. Lau looked at it, and we realized that on one particular Friday, stroke team cannot present because stroke team on Fridays have another conference that they're doing. And so we have to change. So that's like immediate feedback. And guess what happens next week? The schedule of the morning report is going to change, just because we want to make sure that we all enjoy clinical neurology and we also enjoy the teaching. And so if something has to change, we will change it immediately. But I think like in regards of the changes, I would urge you to listen to different programs, and I would want you to hear from them that they want to change. I don't want you to be scared when people say the program will be changing. I don't think that it's going to be for worse. I think that it's going to be for better. I think that I would be more suspicious of a program that would say like, we're not going to be changing at all. We love how things are. Because just being in the medical educator and being with the training and being with everything that's happened, look at what happened to the world. The world is changing around us. We never knew that we could do this virtual open houses. We never knew that we could do virtual interviews. We never knew that step 2 clinical skills are going to be canceled. We never knew that step 1 is going to be pass or fail, but all of this happened. And if something more will happen in the future. And so the program has to change, has to always adapt. And I think that it's usually for better. I really believe so.
All right. We have a nitty-gritty collection of questions, Dr. Browner, about the application process.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So application process. So yes. So basically what happens is that none of us are going to ERS until the September 29th, obviously. If you would like to put your application earlier than that, you're welcome to, but we actually will not be able to see it. We actually will be seeing it on September 29th. And we really believe in holistic review, and we don't really have a particular number on any of your steps or any of your other standardized testing that we basically say, here's going to be the cutoff. Why? Because as a person who took a lot of tests, and as a person who's currently has a 17-year-old at home who has taken a test and trying to apply with that test into college, I can tell you that the test usually doesn't show anything who you are. And I think that your recommendation letters and your personal statement, please don't don't overlook your personal statement. I am the person who reads every single personal statement. I need them because that's my way of understanding who you are. So we read all of that. We read transcripts and everything that people talk about you, and little blurbs into the evaluations for every single rotation. So all of this is really interesting and important, and you cannot overdo it. Don't forget about hobbies on ERS as well. This is a totally conversation starter, and it's totally fun. And I think that interviews should be fun. And so I personally look at the hobbies, and I remember who is my video gamer, and I remember who is my reader, and I remember who is the needer, and all other stuff. So absolutely, please do all of that. And so it takes us a little bit of a time to get the invitations out. So I don't anticipate with this holistic review, I don't anticipate that we will send out the invitations very quickly after the September 29th, because we do have a lot of applicants to usually apply. And so in order to give everybody a fair review, it really does take time. And so I think that what we anticipate is sending out interview invites sometime maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that September 29th date, honestly. So that's going to be that. For international graduate myself, so I know exactly where you are. I've been there, I've done it. I really don't understand. I really don't know how to figure it out currently, what to do about the United States clinical experience. I know that before a lot of people were saying you should really have United States clinical experience, but with COVID, it's been very strange and very hard to create. And so I think that if you have a clinical experience at home country and somebody knows you very well and you've done it with somebody, ask that person to write about it. You know, give us the idea to what it was look like, what type of patients you saw, how many hours you've spent, what type of hospital it was, or clinic it was. And I think that would really be very, very helpful. Also, I'm not sure, like I was 3 years after finishing my medical school and my residency in my home country before I even applied and matched with my neurology program. I'm not sure how to say, like, it depends, I guess, what you were doing the time when you were out of the medical school. We completely understand that sometimes leaving your home country comes with a lot of different stories. And sometimes you wouldn't be able to do anything within the medicine because you would have to provide for your family, for example, or you have to be taking care of your children during this time. And then only now, several years later, you are ready to apply, or you're ready to sit for the step 2 maybe, and you're ready to do whatever needs to be done to be an applicant. And I think that if you can write this in your essay, in the personal statement, so that we don't have to hunt it through application and trying to piece it together, I think that's usually is extremely, extremely helpful. I hope I answered the questions.
I think you answered them very well.
All right, anybody who has questions about applications and process, please raise your hand and I'm happy to answer it in more details. I promise I will. Aha, Nicole.
Hi, thank you guys for this presentation. I just wanted to clarify for the letters of recommendation. I saw on your website, I believe that it's 3 or more letters. And I was just wondering if you guys require a department letter from internal medicine or have any other specific requirements or preferences. Okay.
No, I think I put it specifically on our website and that we don't care chairman letter, we don't care program director letter. I think that with letters, overall advice, it has to be from the person who knows you. You know, it doesn't matter what they are, like how they're full professor, associate professor, they chair, they whatever. It's the person who knows you. Internal medicine, we spend 1 year in internal medicine. We are first and foremost doing internal medicine training. So your rotation in internal medicine, if they saw that you are an amazing clinician, it tells us more than anybody who's telling us about something from, you know, somewhere else, some other subspecialty, for example, or a neurologist that you spend only 1 day with. You see, so I don't think that it's about subspecialties, and I don't think it's about necessarily who it is, you know, on the kind of like on a ladder, on the leadership ladder. I think it's more about a person who knows you and can talk about your ability to be with the patient in front of you, your clinical acumen, your clinical judgment, how you were a team member, what did you do in this particular situation that basically sticks to their mind, that you've done so well, for example, or you had a challenging patient and you navigated this with aplomb. we want to hear that. We want to hear that. And I promise you, we will talk about it during the interview. That will be your way to shine, honestly. That would be for us to ask more questions about it and hear your perspective on that challenging situation or that win that you've had. Does it make sense, Nicole? Like, I think it has to be people who know you well. It doesn't matter what necessarily they do or which subspecialty they're in.
Thank you.
I will let you all know too, aplomb is Dr. Browner's favorite word.
No, mine right now is awesome sauce.
That's her favorite type.
I have this horrible thing. I have these words that stick to me and I keep using them, and then everybody around me start using them, and then I switch to something else. Yes, awesome sauce is the one that would like currently. And then neuro nerds also. Neuro nerds is the other one.
Okay.
Oh, Tracy has a question. We have very active audience. I love it.
Hello. Thank you guys for hosting this. I appreciate that you guys have like really bright smiles and it makes it like enjoyable to watch. But I did want to ask about intern year and how involved interns are within the neurology department, or do they like solely belong to internal medicine?
Yeah, sure. So you are totally with us. So formally you spend 2 months. Formally you spend 2 months with us as part of the ward service. So you'll either come in and be on the stroke service or the ward service, and then the rest of that time is spent with internal medicine. But you're always invited to all of our lectures. Actually, you're on the WhatsApp group. Yes, we use WhatsApp here. You're on the WhatsApp group, so you're getting all the same kind of funny meme messages from myself and Dr. Browner all the time. There's actually coffee with the program directors when you're an intern, just to check in, make sure you guys are doing okay. It is kind of odd to be somewhere else and feel a little bit separated. And so we want to make sure that you guys feel that, and that we're here for you always. So you definitely still have some neuro experience. It's a very small portion of your intern year, but always connected with us. And I know that the residents have been sneaking and getting the interns into the social events and showing us pictures of themselves in socially distanced outdoor spaces together.
Yes, we also have these, so we're texting a lot, honestly. So it says this WhatsApp group is actually, it's not a joke, it's like a really active group. And this is how we talk to each other all the time. So we have a separate one for PGY1s and me, and periodically I send them memes and like crazy messages and send me back. And then Aaron actually started doing this funny thing. He's like, I would like to come to visit. And he came to visit and we sat for half an hour and just chatted, you know, like we nothing was happening, but we just like was chatting, and I was like, I love it. And so suddenly I see somebody else coming over and to visit, like, I'm here to visit with you. And I do have a program director hours. So every Wednesday and every Friday, I have a block on my schedule for 1 hour. And this is just, I'm not doing anything. I'm literally dedicated for you to come and meet. We do it virtually or in person, it doesn't matter. We sometimes eat during that time, we sometimes drink, we sometimes cry, we sometimes discuss things, you know what I mean? But it's just our time for us together to hang out. And I feel like intern class has been using this time, but mostly we're doing the text messaging. I think like overall for the first year, I think overall the goal is to become a doc, become a doctor. And I think that internal medicine creates this environment at UNC where they really lift you up and show you how to be a doc. You know, the seniors that they put for the services, especially first 3 months, cherry-picked people who really are not only great educators, but they're just lovely. They're there to like bring you up, be with you, explain to you how to approach the patient, how do I talk to the nurses, like all of these small little questions that you have as a medical student, where suddenly people give you a long coat and say like, all right, you're a doctor now, keep going, so I think that I love to pieces our internal medicine program, and the program director, Deb Bynum, they're absolutely amazing. The chief residents that she chooses every year are also amazing people. And so, yeah, it's a really great experience. Great experience. I hope we answered your question.
Sharanya, did I say your name right? Please correct me.
Hi, yes, you did. Yes, you did, Dr. Lau. And you're the first two people to get it right in this state. So thank you.
Yay.
Must pronounce people's names correctly.
Yeah. No, people get really innovative with my name. So I have a ton of fun with that. So don't worry about it. Okay, so thank you so much for your session. And this was by far the most cheerful open house I've attended. So hats off to you guys. Also, my question was regarding resident wellness, which I think is kind of obsolete judging by how amazing the vibe is. But just to cover my bases, what kind of initiatives does UNC take for resident wellness through residency? If you could just elaborate on that, please.
Yeah. Do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
Go ahead, Dr. Lau. I will always take on.
Okay. Well, from institutionally, UNC cares a lot about resident wellness. And so and they actually care about physician wellness as a whole. So here at UNC, we have a program called Taking Care of Your Own. It is both a hotline and an kind of high access pathway to seeing psychologists and therapists if you need to. And it's very much not it's completely removing the stigma from it, because I can say honestly, I know many providers, including myself, who's just accessed that because sometimes you just feel you want that extra support. And I think that's important, that's normalized, right? That we all take care of each other. And so that program is called the Taking Care of Your Own Plan program. The residents sort of take wellness into their own hands via social means, which is great. And that's what we love. Some of them play basketball together. Some of them had Zoom happy hours. And I somehow got onto one of these. I don't know how, but I saw Amalia makes a mean sidecar apparently. So that's pretty neat. So there's a lot of kind of internal help each other out from the residents. If we've not kind of formally highlighted this at all, so I'll just sort of say it informally because I've been afraid to share this on Twitter, that the residents actually prefer to use Instagram. So if you'd like to see kind of what the residents are like and what they do for wellness, it's on their Instagram.
Yes, that's something that they're doing on their own.
Yeah,
you know, allowing the children to try their own in a social sphere, but like they will post a lot of pictures apparently what they do.
They didn't want to be on Twitter because that's apparently where the parents are, and it's, I don't know, they didn't want to be in the same space we were in.
All right. I think also the other piece is that, so I think the wellness is also part, like, you know, mentorship. I think that mentorship is extremely important for the wellness. You know, it's very hard to change your feeling when you start neurology, because you drink from the fire hose, you know, the information, the patients, what you need to figure it out. It's quite complicated, you know. And so the hours are going to be something that you will have to put in because it's your professional development in any ways. But if you have a mentor next to you, if you have a person next to you who will say, it's okay, or here's how I did it, or this is how I navigated it, this is really, really awesome. And so what we usually do is that the PGY1 and PGY2 assign the mentor, which is basically Dr. Lau and I. So we are the mentors we're the people who you connect to, you talk to constantly, we triple check on you, we think about you, and so on and so forth. We don't stop thinking about you if you become PGY3 or 4. I promise you that. It doesn't really happen. But what happens is that as a 2, what happens is that you start seeing a lot of different clinical faculty, because remember, all of them are with you. They rotate through all of the 3 clinical services. You have a dedicated EEG months, you have a dedicated ICU months, you have a dedicated clinical time, you have a core faculty who just only do clinic with you, you launch through clinic. And so you eventually learn their personalities. And I can tell you by the end of PGY2, you have your little tiny mentor. You have a person that you look up to, the faculty that you always go to. Definitely it happens to every single one of us. And that is something that eventually as a 3 or 4, we encourage. So when I see, so a long time ago when I inherited this program, the idea was that we will assign you a mentor. Oh, I failed miserably. I so failed. I would assign and I don't know, and just like was not working, you know, because you know how it is, you have to find your soulmate in a way in mentorship. And so I stopped doing that. And then what I do is that I basically watch who likes to talk to whom and what they would like to do. And a lot of residents will have several mentors. Some would be the mentors who are, for example, for the professional development, like I don't know what I'm going to be doing, academics versus private practice and so forth. And some are because I want to do neuromuscular and I'm going to connect to neuromuscular faculty. I'm going to make a case report through that. I will try to understand whether I really like it or not, and so on and so forth. So you end up having several faculty who are there. And I think that is very important. The other part that happens to us is this. I'm talking a lot, I'm sorry, but I just love them to pieces. And I think that was a great idea of them. We have something that's called the buddy call, which is basically when you start as a PGY2, the first several months, 2 months, your senior is taking call with you actually together. So you're not by yourself. And what ends up happening is that there's becoming a huge connection between 4s and 2s. And 4s, they end up like the grandmothers. He doesn't know what to do. I cannot believe it. We have to teach, you know, and the PGY2 is all like, oh my God, you're my best senior. So on the graduation dinner, the people who are crying is number 1 in a PGY2 class, because the seniors are leaving, because there's definitely a connection between the 4s and the 2s, because the 4s investing tremendous amount of time in the 2s, because a long time ago another 4s were investing time into them, you know. And I love that, because this is something that was not done by me, no Dr. Lau. It was something that the seniors come up with themselves. They said, we want to do the buddy call. We've been doing it for the past 4 years. And I see this connection, and that's what's called the peer mentorship. And I really love it, because I think that it has this very particular punch, because if you hear your faculty telling you, oh, it's going to be okay, do you believe it really? But if the peer tells you, listen, I've been there, I remember my PGY2 year, I know, and I know this is how it works better. Oh, that's packs the punch. That's like, becomes really, really meaningful. So I think it's a wellness as well. Now, we were recently talking about, remember, dividing them into families, dividing the residents into families. And then we very quickly just figured out that some people don't want to be with that family and with this family, like dividing them into so that they will be together. And so again, it's something that we shouldn't be doing. I don't think that we should do something to people specifically. Do you see what I'm saying? I think like people need to like figure it out. It's like people say like, let's do yoga for wellness. I was like, oh, I'm so not, I can't do this. I think I'm going to be thinking about too many things during that time. You know, so I think it's wellness is, I think wellness is culture. I think wellness is being bright and feeling great about it and lifting people up around you. I think that creates the wellness, you know. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, convoluted answer to the question. Dr. Lau, do you want to talk about the question about, which is connected, I think, to the wellness, is that inclusion, to how do we think about inclusion and diversity in the program? Because I think it's also very much connected to the wellness. If you feel like you included in the collective, I think and you feel part of the collective, I think it's like, that's what also about 50% of wellness, I feel.
Yeah. So it is important to us, as you've heard, about really just doing a holistic review, right? Who are you? What do you stand for? What are your values? It's also really important to us that our residency program really reflect diversity, and diversity in multiple ways. Like you saw our kind of statistics on how many IMGs, how many females, how many people with families, how many single. And guess what? That's just the world's population. That's North Carolina's population. And it's utterly important that patients see themselves in a little bit of their provider, right? And can feel that you understand. Even if you don't share the exact same characteristics, it's so important that they can connect in you in some way. And so when we're doing this holistic review, that's what we're looking for. Very intentionally, we want all of our faculty here to be very mindful of that as well. And so over the past 2 years, it's been required that all faculty undergo microaggressions training and implicit bias training. And so everybody, every faculty member that you touch point with, if you choose to come and interview with us and you're invited to interview, you will interview with them knowing that this is in the forefront, that they've been told, taught, and trained how to check the biases at the door. Additionally, we have a wonderful diversity and equity and inclusion committee within the department that includes residents. That means bringing in residents to tell us, hey, where else do we need to do more? All last year, we did, I think, overall 4 diversity, equity, inclusion journal clubs where we actually, one time we just watched a news report and then we discussed it. It was about COVID, the COVID crisis in India, and having people share, you know, this is what's happening to my family and this is what makes me upset, and just opening a conversation. We talked about the bias in medical school admissions. We talked about selecting your providers based on their culture and whether or not that's appropriate, acceptable, and what does cultural competency mean. And these were all topics that were chosen by the residents because they want to talk about it. They want to hear how their faculty do it. And I'll say that not all faculty are perfect. We're all learning and growing together. And I'd say the faculty have learned just as much from the residents about this kind of stuff. I'm personally in a training program that will end with a certificate. And so I am very gladly a safe zone trained advocate within the UNC Department of Neurology. And very just, you can see my she, her, and all these things. So it's highly important to us that we're recruiting residents that really reflect our world and our population and the direction that it's going.
Yep. And then after that, supporting people. I think that's one thing is to recruit a person and recruit diverse populations. But after that, it's very important to support a person in their diversity. I think that's extremely important. And just kind of like considering even the holidays, even kind of like how they consider approaching the subject matter sometimes very, very different. And so the beginning of all of us was basically the conversation and to saying that this is how I feel about this and this is what it means to me, and then supporting people in it. So I don't know, it's I don't think it was something new to us, honestly, but I think that it was very interesting to see how it became highlighted last year, and how we became much more intentional, I feel, in everything that we were doing already to support people. But I think that we became much more intentional about it. We say, oh yeah, this is why we do this. Yeah, because we love people who are with us and they're very diverse.
So we threw an email in the chat. I prematurely hit return before drafting the whole chat, but Dr. Browner caught it, and so she fixed it. So Sharon Ward is our program coordinator. If you guys do have questions that come along the way, especially prior to the applications going out, but also during the applications and during the interview, you can email her. We sort of lose track of our emails, and so she's sort of the best first stop. And we'll definitely reach out to us, and we can reach out to you if there's a question that's relevant to that. Dr. Browner and I are very strict about the ERAS requirements of, you know, don't talk about this, don't talk about ranking, don't imply any of those things. And so send those as questions and we will answer questions. Okay. That's our one thing. We're very strict about it.
Yes. Very good. Okay, I think we can do one last question round and then we'll let people be and enjoy their Friday afternoon.
What are you talking about? I think they were enjoying it.
They were enjoying it. I was enjoying it. I was really happy to see people. It's like really fun. I happen to like virtual interviews. I happen to like interviews, period. I happen to like meeting people. But I really like virtual, like question and answers and getting together on open houses and all of that. Yeah, that's lots of fun. Jalil has another question. Good, go.
Oh, okay. So, Dr. Brown, this was basically just a query about, since you were touching on virtual interviews, do you feel like this practice will continue in the days ahead, or like do you feel it will go back to where it was, or will this become the new normal? Just some insight from your perspective, just on the side note, since you mentioned.
I love this question, honestly. I have to tell you that, with virtual interviews, the money saving for all of the people who were involved is unprecedented. We know that every single candidate would spend up to almost $5,000 just for the interview season, and not going to a lot of programs, but to go into the regular amount of programs that usually people would go, which is like maybe 6, maybe 7 to interview. And this is on top of the medical school debt, and this is on top of the maybe other debt that you already have, and this is on top of like not starting to really actually work or having a paycheck in the months and months to come. And so I think that has been incredibly beneficial. At the same time, virtual interviews really demonstrated to us how different is environment for different applicants. Some people may not have a video connection, or in the background we can see their children, and some people are really upset about it because maybe there's some bias to, I'm having a little child, would I be a resident in the program and give it my all, and so on and so forth. So it's very complicated question. Also, we know that underrepresented minorities, they definitely, when they were interviewing, that was their time to create the connections, find the mentorship, find your right programs. And in addition to just seeing somebody who you interview with, you would be seeing other faculty during the lunchtime, when walking through the hospital, when maybe talking to the dinner, and that's something that was not there anymore, that informal relationship, informal mentorship that could happen. And so we just have to be very careful about this and understand what are the benefits, what are the negative parts. I do think that in the time of COVID, it's great. Do you see what I'm saying? And I do think that for international graduates, for example, who continue to stay in their home country, it's also extremely great. So I do hope that in the future, we would be able to provide virtual interviews for people who just cannot yet to travel. And, in our program, every year we have international graduate, and we interviewed people from their home country, and it was really great. And because of that, we actually have virtual interviews, some in the morning, some in the afternoon, just trying to catch everybody, so that you don't have to interview at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, because I don't think that you will do your best. And so I do think that there's tons of benefits to virtual interviews. I have to say that I eventually, maybe it's just my personality, I eventually didn't feel that I'm missing something that I'm learning about the person. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I've never felt that I haven't met you, right? I basically on the screen, I would make people big, like I would basically make a speaker view in Zoom. And so you would look like you sit on top of my desk and talking to me. And it was really fun. And so it was really great. It worked out very, very good. But I could see how for some people who don't have access to internet, or concerned about their background, it could be not completely what they were envisioning before, or for whom it's very hard to navigate technology. So like anything, like all innovations has positive and negatives. I am more about combining, right? Like doing in-person and virtual. I think that'd be great. But this year we're going for AAN, and everybody's doing virtual interviews this year, and so we're following that guidelines. I feel that it's good to be create a similarity for the whole field. So that's what we're doing this year. All right. Well, it was tons of fun. I enjoyed it. How about you, Dr. Lau?
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yes,
This
and-
is like
and-
what you and I do regularly.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Well, anyways, good luck, everybody. I really wish you good luck. We are very excited that you're choosing neurology. This is like the best profession there is, and we are totally not biased about it. We think so. And I think that we wish you good luck. Be yourself, bring your best. And I think that there is a space to be a neurologist in the United States for everybody. So, and I think that good luck for the interview season. Dr. Lau, last words.
Have a good weekend, neuro nerds.
Yes, neuro nerds. Hey, it's catching up. That's it. That's how it's going to be now. All righty. Thank you so much, guys. Good luck with everything. If you have any questions, send it on the email. Email is in the chat, and then we'll go from there. Bye.